Alright, good nuts. So today we're going to start on the finishing of our bench pieces. I went out and got this Ryobi 18-inch belt sander. The only thing I really know about this whole process is to go with the green. I've got some paper in 80 and 120. If I need to go any higher grit, I will. I don't necessarily foresee that. But yeah, we got some glue, so that's going to make it a little bit difficult because I know that's going to gum up the paper quite a bit. I tried to keep the amount of glue that's on the surface down, but that's not always entirely possible. I'm hoping with the extra drying time that we've had that it'll flake off a little bit easier than it will gum up. I don't know. But we're going to get started. This is the long piece. It appears as though there's no twist or anything in this, and that it is pretty well straight. It's just going to be a matter of leveling one board to the other as close as I can, and getting them ready for stain and stuff like that. But then I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to do the short one, and then there'll probably be a slight cut in the video, and we'll do the big one for the other sit-down bench. Glue.
They say that age kills the fire inside of a man. That he hears death coming. He opens the door and says, "Come in, give me rest." That is a pack of lies. I've got enough fight in me to devour the world. So, I fight.
Alright guys, so this is about what we're looking for here. We want no saw marks, and using the glue lines as kind of a measure to make sure that everything's getting kind of evenly sanded. So as soon as the glue lines are just a thin pencil line, and I have no sand marks, then I know I'm pretty well good. Now, I know that this would be much easier and better done with a planer. I don't have one, so making do with what I got. In the planning process, I kind of knew I wasn't going to have a planer, so what I planned on doing is there's going to be a 1/4 inch lip or whatever needs to be on the facing boards, and the rest is going to lay in epoxy. So if this isn't perfectly smooth, you'll never actually even notice that, because the epoxy is going to end up laying smooth. So the idea here is to make sure that the surface is ready for stain and doesn't have any, show any bad marks or anything in it, and to get all the excess glue off. It looks like I'm going through a few more of the sandpaper than what I was hoping. Another one of those things I probably should have thought about. For the Ryobi thing, I'd say the bag system really isn't working very well. I don't know whether it's because something's gotten plugged up with glue. I may pull it apart and take a look at it, because it's just blowing, as you can see, sawdust everywhere. But we're going to flip this around, do the other side, and then go over it with 120. And then we're going to do the other one, which is going to be the sit down. This is the stand up. So I'll probably just bring you in once I get both of them sanded, and I'll show you what it looks like then. Alright guys, so we've got the sit down and the stand up benches. I'll sand it out with 80 grit, and then sand it back down, sand it with 120 on top of that. So they're prepped and ready. They need to be wiped out with some mineral spirits, and then they are ready to be stained. That's a pretty big difference from this to that. So it did take most of the sandpaper that I had. In fact, it took all of it. The Ryobi belt sander does a pretty good job. Can't complain too much with how it worked. And didn't take too long, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. But we got it all sanded out. So next, I don't want to stain on different days, because as much as you guys have been able to tell with the weather, with it raining and everything, the humidity is different, and come out different colors. So I'm gonna wait for this bench to be done drying and setting up and everything else, and then I'm gonna sand or cut it, and then sand it out until it's ready and prepped, and then I'm going to stain all of them at the same time. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move all this stuff out of here and out of the way, and then I'm gonna build the boxes. There's actually the facing boards are gonna be kind of like a box around each section, sort of. And I'm going to build them here on the floors to make sure that I've got something completely flat. And then we'll attach them to the benches, and then we'll have a bench top. So a lot of steps for this process, but we're getting closer. And the next time I see you, we'll be prepping the long sit-down bench. Alright gun nuts, we're sanded with 80 grit, and then 120, and the next step is going to be hand sanding with 220, which I'm not going to do a ton of, but I want to make sure that I get every last bit that I can here. So let's take a look here, see about all 5 of our pieces. Alright, so here's our long piece that is actually, it's going to be a sit down portion of the bench. And it's going to go where the old bench was. So it's going to sit right in. That window is going to be off to the left. And it's going to sit around and run all the way up against the other wall. Then we're going to have a corner piece. Then we're going to have this sit down piece. And then we're going to have this longer stand up section. So right now the bench is in 4 different pieces. I'm going to sand it. Then we're going to, I'm going to bring you back for some staining. I've got some golden oak. We're also going to use a Minwax. It's that stain prep. So everything I watched and read said that definitely stain prep for the when you're doing pine like this. And then I'm sorry, golden pecan is what we're going to be doing it in. So we're going to be doing the center section in this, and then trim boards are going to be in this red oak, which is not really all that red if memory serves. So we're just going to go ahead and get to sanding, and I'll bring you back when we're ready to prime. Thanks. Alright guys, so we've gone ahead and wiped everything down with mineral spirits after we finished sanding with 220, and now we're going to use Minwax pre-stain. I'm guessing that you would treat this the same way you would polyurethane, and that you shouldn't shake it. But should mix it, even though it doesn't look like it needs to be mixed at all. This stuff's pretty thin. Alright, directions say to kind of leave this stuff on here for about 15 minutes and wipe off what's left. Looks like with putting it on with the brush, it has a weird kind of habit of not wanting to get very good on the edges, which I'm guessing would be really actually a part where you really kind of need it to get good, because tendency to have a little bit more open pores right there on the edge, which is what this stuff's supposed to do, is to kind of close off these pores so that your stain goes on more even.
Miles going to lead off jam session on his famous theme number, Flying Home.
Alright guys, well I'm going to let this sit for 15 minutes, and then we're going to wipe it all down. Alright guys, so it's been about 15 minutes, so I'm just going to go ahead and wipe these down. I'm not trying to wipe anything necessarily, like, I'm not trying to rub it off or rub it down, just kind of wipe them down to make sure that there's no residual kind of laying on top. At least that's what the direction can says to do. And by and large, guys, look, it's not like I'm telling you how to do this. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. So if it doesn't work, you can then know what didn't work. I wish I, knew a little bit better about how to handle these things and how to do this, but you got to start somewhere, right? Alright, so a little bit of a second coat on that one area that I saw. I did not see any other areas that I thought were that were too thin, except for, like I said, there was just that one corner over here. Next, I'm going to let it sit for half an hour. Yeah, a half an hour. And then I'm going to come back and stain it. Alright guys, so I've gone ahead and mixed on this some. Let me go ahead and mix on it a little bit more, but the can's so full it's hard to mix up. Alright, so it's been enough time. Let's go ahead and start applying. The first thing I can tell you is that this is not a very stark color difference. Of a stain. In fact, I can kind of tell you by what I'm seeing right now that I really like it. It's coming out, it's looking like exactly what I was hoping it was going to look like. Guys, I'll tell you just from my little bit of experience woodworking, this conditioner makes one hell of a difference. I've never seen pine take stain the way this is right now. It's coming out looking really, really good without being blotchy or anything. Guys, seeing this come out the way it is, it's kind of making me not hate this idea as much as I have been lately, because lately it's just been such a time suck that I've been kind of negative about the whole process and whether or not I feel other people should go through this or not. This is really starting to come out to look like something. I guess that's the point of projects like this. I can remember times when I was working on my Chevelle or something that, you know, feel like the process takes too long and that, you know, it's not worth it. Then when you get done, kind of change your mind a little bit. Alright, let me take you in here and kind of show you what it looks like so far. Sorry about the rattling. That's the color so far. I'm going to give this a couple minutes. And then go ahead and wipe it all down. Oh, that was really hard to see with all that shadow, sorry. But there's some spots where it's a little bit light because of where the knots are at, stuff like that. Really looks, in my opinion, it's looking good so far. So I'm going to let this sit, and then I will bring you back when we wipe her down. Alright guys, so we have the time that we're supposed to have. Now it's time to kind of wipe it off. It's kind of sticky. Which I guess is kind of to be expected. Boy, it makes it hard with a stupid rag like this. Alright guys, I'll take you over here and take a look. I don't know how well you can tell, but very little change in color after wiping it off. Everything looks pretty doggone uniform and kind of golden like I was hoping it was going to look. After it completely dries, it may come out a little bit duller, but there's certainly a color difference. Alright, so let's talk about the next step. The next step is going to be one of the more difficult ones for me because I haven't quite figured out necessarily how best to do this. What we're going to do is, I've got facing boards which are pine, and they're, for lack of a better term, they're nice looking pine. They're 4 inches, and I'm going to bring them up a 1/4 inch from the top of the bench, so there'll be a ledge around the whole thing. And I'm going to box it all in with these facing boards. It's going to need to be stained, and it's being stained a different color, so I'm afraid to get one stain on the other. The other thing is these benches these tops are not necessarily, they're relatively square, but they're not necessarily square. So that's going to make it a little bit difficult. Also, I don't want to screw into the facing board, so I'm trying to figure out how best to do this time-wise or sequence-wise. I'm thinking about sanding the edge and staining the facing boards as the first section. And then I think I'm going to flip these over, and I'm going to put the mounting, I don't know what you would call them, mounting boards around the perimeter. And I'm probably going to, at that point, put the bench together. So for instance, the big seating part, this seating part, and the corner piece all be mounted together as one piece. Then I'm going to take some 1/4 inch thick shims and put them in a couple of places, and then set this thing on its face down on the floor, and then put the facing boards around and mount. I think that's how I'm going to do this, but I don't quite know. So it's going to take a little bit of time to figure it out to finish the bench top, but we're really close. We're a hell of a lot closer than we were last week. So I think this is probably going to to finish this up. Maybe not, but anyway, in case it is, stay safe, have fun. I'll see you when I see you. Laters.